it's Lacey and welcome to our space. And so today's video is going to be centered around mostly Dollar Tree items. We're going to have a couple of little items also in with there, but they're all going to have a snowflake theme. So you can use these DIYs for the holiday season that's coming up and then keep them up for winter season as well. So first of all, we're going to start off with this DIY with this little ornament from Dollar Tree. It's a set of skis. I also have one of the 8-inch reforms and this kind of cable knit headband for winter that they have. One of these berry picks and also some ribbon. This ribbon actually came from Dollar General, but Dollar Tree has the same. And then I didn't end up using the smaller ribbon. Then next I have this beautiful fabric that I got from Hobby Lobby. I already had it in my stash, but they had it this year as well. We're also going to be utilizing some of these beautiful eucalyptus that's frosted from Joann Fabrics, and I got those 75% off, so this sprig ended up costing me a little over $3. And then finally, a thrifted picture frame that I got for $1 a while ago. It was missing the complete back, but it still has the hanger, so I thought it would be great, and it still has the glass. So the first thing we're going to do is open our fabric and put the glass from the picture frame on and leave about 1 inch around it and then cut it out. I'm going to be, of course, covering this glass with this fabric to be the backing of our DIY. I just love the print with the buffalo check and all the different snowflakes. So then I'm going to glue the fabric on the back side, and I'm going to go on opposite sides to glue it down so I can stretch it and it lays nicely on there. Then I'm just going to fold the corners like you would fold a Christmas present and glue those down as well along with the other sides, making sure that I tuck it in so it will fit back into our picture frame. This fabric's just regular cotton knit, and so, or polyester blend something. It should go in there fine. If you use a thicker one, you might have a little bit of trouble. Also, you could do this with like wrapping paper from Dollar Tree. They have some that have snowflakes on it too, or a gift bag. So now I am just taking my Ryobi hot glue gun. You guys know I love this big bad boy. I have all 3 of them now that they carry. I am just gluing this into the picture frame so it won't fall out. I'm keeping this for me, but if I wasn't, I'd put felt on the back to cover up the ugliness that's back there. Next, I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to take my 8-inch reform and cover it with the cable knit headband that I found at Dollar Tree. They have these in multiple colors. I ended up getting the black one and the one that was kind of like a maroon color. Make sure you get a real stretchy one because my maroon one doesn't really want to go around the reform, but I'm going to use it for something else at a later date. I'm just putting a couple of dabs of hot glue in there so it won't come off at all as I'm working with it. And then I'm going to take my little ornament and glue it from the tips down on top of my wreath. And then this happened. My camera shut off. I didn't know that it wasn't filming, and so I got this far before I realized it. So all I did after I glued my ornament to my wreath is I glued the wreath to the center of the picture frame. Very easy. This whole DIY is very easy. Then I took the berry pick and took it apart off the long stem and just put half of the berries on one side and half on the other side in the middle at the top. And then I started to glue some pieces of the eucalyptus. I just pulled them off the stem. I didn't have to cut anything for that. And I'm gluing them in on the top on the opposite side. I slowed down all that footage so I could tell you guys all of that. And now I'm just going to go ahead and mimic the other side of this picture frame top with 2 pieces of the eucalyptus. I was going to put more on there because you guys know I'm crazy extra, but I think it's busy enough with the snowflakes and the skis and everything, but I really like how it's turning out. So now I'm just going to take some of this ribbon, and I like this ribbon. The reason I picked this one and not the Dollar Tree one is because it's a smaller ribbon, and the buffalo check is the same size as a buffalo check print in my fabric, and I'm just making a loopy bow. And how I do this is I just put 2 loops together, and then I fold the loops from the underneath on to the back side and pinch them. I am not going to be cutting this ribbon. I'm not making a lacy space bow. I'm just making a regular bow. However, I decided I want all of my bows to have more than 2 loops on them. So this one's got 3 on each side. So now I'm going to pinch the center of it and make sure that all of my loops are about the same size on each side, and then I'm going to put them together with a zip tie from Dollar Tree. They carry a bag of zip ties. There's small white ones and black ones in a bag, and then I have a bag that has slightly larger ones. So I'm using a black one since we have black and white buffalo check. I'm just going to put that on, and I'm not going to tighten it as far as it'll go yet because I want to make sure that my ribbons are in the right spot. And you can see I only have one tail, so I'm going to add a second one on. I cut a piece of ribbon and figured out where I wanted it, and I'm just going to glue this on the back. Now normally I would take some floral wire and twist it on the back, but this is not moving, and like I said, it's for me, and I knew I needed to add a tail because I didn't leave an extra tail, so I'm just gluing that on there, and any that sticks out like at the top, I just cut it off with some scissors. Now I have this ribbon from Dollar Tree as well. I found in my stash just a minute ago, and it has the same kind of print that my fabric has, so I'm going to cut off a little piece of that to put around my zip tie in the middle of my bow instead of using more of my original bow ribbon to do that, because I think it's really cute and kind of extra to coordinate it like that. It's these fun little touches that I love about crafting. I don't know about you. Do you like to add just that extra little bit of an extra touch? I think it just makes it so much more special. So then I'm just going to put a glob of hot glue in there and glue it down to the center and fluff my bow, and it's pretty much done. However, my little ski lift sign on my skis was coming off and it wasn't centered, so I did take that off, and I'm making sure it's centered and it covers up the staples that are holding everything together underneath. And then my project is completely done. Look at this. Didn't take me long at all, and I think it makes a really great impact. It would be great to have it some kind of ski lodge. The cable knit makes you feel all warm and cozy with this, and if you look closely, it had a little gingham bow on it, so I took it off and I cut that ribbon in half and made my own bow to match the fabric too. Alright, DIY number 2 before I get more crazy with that one. This one is so simple and so easy. I have made pillows out of the placemats from Dollar Tree, and today we're making them out of the dish towel with the snowflakes on it and some of the new pom-pom ribbon that Dollar Tree had this year. So I have 3 or 4 of these dish towels, and I just measured that one to make sure those 2 are the same size, because you know sometimes Dollar Tree stuff can be wonky. And I'm taking one and I'm cutting it in half. I'm going to make an envelope pillow so that I can stuff a pillow form into it. But I didn't like the raw edge that I cut, so I'm just bending it over slightly. It's not even a half an inch, and gluing it down so it's a finish edge on this. I don't know if I had to do this, but I figured since I'm making this as a pillow form that I can put in the washing machine if it gets dirty, since it is white, I don't want it to ravel. Then I cut off a piece of the pom-pom garland. And here's where the trick is. You want the garland, the pom-poms, to face inward onto your dish towel where you cut it. And I'm putting them on the side that I cut, not on the side that is still form free. I want that white thicker band over there to be the middle. That's going to be my envelope part. And I am being really careful here and using the edging that's on this pom-pom garland, and I'm putting little dabs of hot glue there and making sure the pom-poms don't stick to any of the glue. Make sure that they all are pulled out. If you get them stuck, they're not going to look right on the edge of your pillow. So take your time doing this. It's not hard at all, but they want to twist around on you, so I'm being really careful with that. Then after I'm done with that, I'm going to put that back on my towel that I did not cut at all, because since we cut it and we need it to be an envelope, I'm gonna have to judge how far I want them to fold over. And you see I have it folded over, and I'm gonna cut off the excess white on the side. I just thought this was easier for me. You can leave it and glue it there. I just think the front then will be more bulky. I don't want that to happen, so I cut it off, and then I didn't like the rough edge, so I'm gluing it down. Now I'm going to take the full towel and the edge that I cut off and glue it very carefully to the side with the pom-poms. making sure that I get the hot glue only on the edge and I don't glue any of the pom-poms to either side. Like I said, just take your time and do it slowly. I slowed down my footage here so you can see in real time. I'm just doing little tiny sections, and I'm making sure my pom-poms are away from it so they can stick out when we turn our pillow to the right side. I don't want them stuck in between with the hot glue. So I'm going to do that to both sides, and that's what this looks like. So you can pull the towel apart like this, and that seam is going to be a kind of thick because I use hot glue. You can do this whole thing by sewing or using fabric glue, and it won't be as thick of a seam there. I have a lot of hot glue in there, so it's kind of thick. But no one's going to lay on this. I'm going to put it on my porch for winter season, for holiday and winter season. So now next, what I'm doing is I'm gluing the other edges. I'm going to start with the one that's going to be the inside seam. So the fold is going to go over this one. You'll see in a second what I mean. But we're just going to glue it all the way down on the edge. And you can use quite a bit of hot glue. This is Gorilla hot glue. So it's going to be really sturdy once it's dried so I can get my pillow form in it. If you're using really cheap hot glue, you might want to put some fabric glue or stitch this with it, because taking the pillow form in and out is going to stretch these towels. So here is the other side where I'm finishing it off, and you can see the flap went over it. Now I'm just turning it to the right side, and I'm going to get all the corners and make sure I pull all the pom-poms out of the corners, and then I'll be ready to put my pillow form in. And it's just a patio pillow that I already used for my front porch in spring with a bicycle on it, and I'm just going to stuff it inside of this pillow and show you guys what it looks like. And here's what it looks like on the back. You can see the fold over, so you can open it up and put your pillow form inside, or you could stuff it with polyfill too, and then you wouldn't even necessarily have to have made the fold on the back. And here's the front of it, and I just love it. I'm going to put it on my front porch. I was going to use my Cricut to write on the front of it and have it say "Let It Snow," but I think it's really pretty on its own, so I just left it as is. So on to DIY number 3. For this one, we're going to be making a Christmas tree 3-tiered tray. And we're going to be using this reform from Dollar Tree. I have a couple of these. My girlfriend Cheryl gave me one, and then I found one. And we also are going to be using the wooden beads from Dollar Tree. These are in the Crafter Square section. If you can find them, they came out in the fall season. I'm also going to use some wire cutters, and I'm going to be using the Snowflake dishes from Dollar Tree. I thought I was going to use a bowl, but it didn't fit. But I am going to use the large plate and the salad plate, and then I have another piece that I'll show you in a little while that I'm going to use. I'm also going to be putting on my safety glasses because I'm going to be cutting little pieces of metal off of this because we cannot use the middle wires here. So I'm going to cut as close to the tree as possible, lift the wire, and then cut again as close to the tree as possible. And there's 3 on each one of these, and I'm going to take them all off. As you can also see, I opened the bottom of the tree. That I didn't need to cut with the wire cutters. That I just pulled apart because that's where all of the trees are connected. Then I'm going to bend the bottom parts of these trees up, because you cannot get the beads on if you have those right degree angles. Plus, I'm going to have my tree stay like that on the bottom. Now, I started to try to put the beads on from the Dollar Tree, and Dollar Tree beads are really wonky and really small, and they wouldn't all fit. So I'm using my Ryobi rotary tool. It's like a Dremel, and I am just grinding down where some of them were too thick to get the beads over. Some of them still need like you to turn the beads to get them on, because you'll see if you have Dollar Tree beads, they're kind of wonky. If you don't and you're using regular beads, then you probably won't have this problem. I just wanted to do this project completely with Dollar Tree things. I only use one thing that's not from Dollar Tree, and I'll show you what that is in a little while. So now, as you can see, my tree looks really wonky because I have to straighten it out some to get the beads around all of these curves. but you can put it back together the way that it needs to be. And I'm showing you that at the bottom I have one bead holding both of the wires so I can get my tree back to the shape that it needs to be. And I only do one tree at a time because now I can use that tree to make sure that my tree goes back together in the same direction, especially once I have all the beads on. So here are both of them. They're sitting on top of each other and they're about even. They don't have to be perfect, but they need to be pretty even, okay? This is the hardest DIY I have ever done on my channel. If you are not a crafter and you get frustrated easy, I don't recommend this because I got frustrated and I don't normally get frustrated. So now let me show you here. This is wonky. See how these don't meet up, but they do stretch and then they meet up. So that's what you have to make sure is that your ends match and that all of your rows that I'm pointing out here, the top row that goes along horizontal, have the same number of beads on each side. And then on the bottom here, I have the same number of beads on each side, and then there needs to be a little gap. A little gap on one, so I have 30 beads on the bottom of one, and then it needs to be a little bigger of a gap on the bottom of the other. Since the wires on each side can go into one bead, like I showed you earlier, or you can glue one of them in through one bead, you can stretch it out so you have a little more room on the bottom of one. I hope that makes sense. You need a little tiny bigger gap on the bottom of one. So then when you pick them up, they're going to be pretty even. I'm not even worried about anything but making sure I have the same number of beads on the horizontal lines. And then we're going to take one of them and put it inside of the other one, the one with the bigger gap inside of the other one, like this. And then you'll have a gap at the top no matter what you do. And we will turn it up and it'll sit up with the two gaps together. Now I messed mine up a little bit at the bottom because the beads are independent. They still move. So the bottom one, I had one bead off. I didn't mean to have one bead off. I fixed it in a second, so don't worry about it. This is so cute. Just like this. There's nothing wrong with this. It's so cute, just like this. Once I move that bead over, this is a great piece of home decor. You can leave this like this and put a star on top of it. Paint it any color you want to paint it or leave it with a natural and put like a little candle holder in the bottom with a LED candle. And this is a great DIY. I say this because I liked it like this, but I had a vision of a 3-tier tray in my head, and you know how extra I am. So from this point, once I fix the bottom, see I fixed the bottom and now it's even, I am going to hot glue, little drops of hot glue in that indentation, and I'm going to do it and let it dry and then do it again and let it dry about 3 times. I'm going to do the same thing to the top and let it dry so I get a nice strong hold. I'm using Gorilla hot glue sticks in my Ryobi hot glue gun. It's a high temperature hot glue gun, so it has to dry. So I left this footage in with me not doing anything, just holding it up so the glue doesn't touch my desk. So you can see it's going to take a second to dry, and I can explain to you it's wobbly. That's what's wrong with this. You have to reinforce it. Once I'm done letting it dry on the bottom 3 different times, I'm doing the very top, which I'm going to show you here in a second. I'm going to put glue on the very top. You're going to have a gap no matter what on the top, so don't worry about it. And if it's not a big gap like this, it's still fine. Just as long as it sets on the top, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to glue the top like 2 or 3 times. Then flip it upside down. I don't show this, but flip it upside down completely and put a little glue on the bottom and a little glue on the inside of the top, and that will help reinforce this. And then you can leave it like this. Like I said, put a candle on the bottom of it, or some greenery and a snowman or some presents or something, or Santa Claus, or be crazy like me and decide to use my Cricut Joy, my little Cricut Joy, and cut out a snowflake with some metallic permanent silver vinyl and put that on the little candle holder that I have here because my bowl won't fit in the top of this and I needed another shelf. I really like how this turned out, And I took it outside and spray painted it in December in Michigan in just warm enough weather to spray paint, and you can see it looks a little messy. I redo it later. It's brighter white. I used Rust-Oleum 2 times the paint and primer in just white semi-gloss, but the wind was blowing and this is what it looked like the first time. And I wanted to get this film for you guys. The second time it looks a little bit better. So then you just slide your plates in this because it moves and it's wonky. You can glue all your plates and your little candle holder down in here and it will not be wonky anymore. I, however, am not going to do that because you can wash your plates and stuff, and so I will just take them out and put them in the dishwasher and then put them back in when I want to use them. So here I am showing you that a Christmas tree needs a star or an angel or something, and I had these little stars. They're ornaments from Dollar Tree, and I'm giving you options. This is a like white iridescent one. They had bells hanging from the bottom, but I cut them off. Or you can use something like this that came from Dollar Tree. I'm showing you that it is not 3D on the back. It's only on the front. I didn't know this, or else I would have bought 2 of these, and I actually had this from last year, and I think I like this size star better. So I took off the little swirly thing at the bottom and I just glued it up there, and this is what we have. My beads, some of them still need some spray paint, but I can't really spray paint in the winter in Michigan all that well. I'm just going to wait until it warms up again and then spray paint over it. But I love how this turned out. It actually worked. And it's not something that you put out for a party that a lot of people are going to be touching, but it's great for decorations, and I decorated it in the middle. So now on to our final DIY number 4. I'm going to be using these brass rings, Wreath rings. That snowflake that came from Dollar Tree, some of the pine greenery they had this year that's frosted, some of these little red picks. Dollar Tree has those, but I couldn't find my Dollar Tree ones, so those are from Joann Fabrics, and some green ribbon. So I took 2 of these out, the largest and the second to the largest, and spray painted them in my garage quickly with Rust-Oleum and I think it's heirloom white. And I'm going to be taking some floral wire here that I got from Michael's on clearance earlier this year. It's a beige color. And I'm going to be wrapping 2 of them together. I wanted to make a wreath. I had an idea once I found that snowflake. It wasn't even supposed to be in this DIY video. Believe me, I just found it and I was like, oh, let's make one more thing. And so I did. And I'm going to hot glue it and hold it up off of my desk so it won't stick to my desk and let that dry. Then I'm going to take my snowflake and I'm going to glue it down to the smaller ring. Now, how I'm going to do this is I put my palm down, press down on the snowflake, and just lift up the edge. That way it will not pull up the other edges that I already glued, and it worked out perfectly. However, I will tell you, I took it off after this because I thought I was going to do this wreath on its side, like it would hang on the wall where the snowflake and stuff was on one side, and you'll see that here. I'm going to flip it over after the glue dries, and I'm going to start putting on some of these pine greenery pieces from Dollar Tree. I love these. I ended up picking up like 6 or 8 of them. I'm not sure exactly altogether. I know I pulled out 6 of them and I had a couple more left, and I figured I'd use most of them on this wreath. I decided to curve them and glue them down to where the 2 wreath forms held together. I also took a little floral wire and wrapped it around it too. I don't show you guys that in this video because, like I said, this was a last minute DIY and I thought it was going to be really, really cute. I wanted to get this video out to you guys. But once I started putting it around, I decided, oh, it would be really cute to take and make the snowflake go in the bottom. So I turned it around. But when it's turned around like this, it's not even. So I had to remove the snowflake, turn the snowflake over to where the point was where I had tied the 2 reforms together, and then it would be even, and that made me move some of my floral too. You'll see it in just a second. You can tell this doesn't look even, and now I switched the snowflake and now it looks even. So all I did was cut off with my wire cutters and then took some floral wire and tied some of the pieces together better than they were on the stem and started taking apart the other stems and just gluing on individual pieces. Sometimes I cut long pieces of their stems and put it on there. Other times I just took them off of the stems and glued it on there until I liked how full it was. You could do this with the eucalyptus that I had on the earlier DIY, or any kind of greenery to go around the sides. I just had this and I loved it. So now I'm taking this ribbon. It came from Joann Fabrics. It's green, and I really liked it because the gold is like a pale gold, and it's like the same gold that's dusted over the snowflake. You really can't tell that it's got some gold dusting on it from the camera, but in person it does. So I'm making another loopy bow just like I did earlier on the picture frame wreath. I just looped the loops back and forth around underneath, and now I'm going to cut off one tail, and I thought I was just going to have one tail and glue another tail underneath, but instead I took that tail and I wrapped it around the center, and then I cut another piece and wrapped that around the center too, and I had two tails coming down, if that makes sense. Like, I cut off a long piece of ribbon and tied it in the middle, and so the middle's a little thick, and it worked out perfectly, and so I had a tail on each side, and then I just cut those at an angle, which you'll see here. That's how that turned out. And so you can have, I have 4 loops on each side instead of 3 like my earlier bow, because I don't know, I felt like having 4 loops. You can have 6 loops or whatever. You know, I'm extra and I need extra, but I was trying not to go too crazy on this wreath. So now I cut another piece of ribbon, and I'm just going to loop it over on itself and put a ton of hot glue all the way across, going down in the back, and glue it to itself. Then I'm going to take a pair of scissors, which somehow I don't have that footage. I don't know why. And I'm going to cut a vertical line into that ribbon after the hot glue dries. So the hot glue will hold it up like an anchor, like on a hook or on a nail or something on the wall. And this is how it turned out. I love it. I think it's really elegant, and I'm keeping this for myself. I love to hang a wreath on the inside of my front door, so I have something pretty to look at inside the house instead of everybody just seeing a pretty wreath on the outside. And I absolutely love this ribbon. I got it. It was like buy one get 3 free at Joann Fabrics earlier this year. So let me know down below which one of these DIYs I did was your favorite, and would you like to see some more snowflake themed DIYs? I have a couple other ones in mind. I'm also going to be bringing you guys some more holiday / winter DIYs coming here on my channel, and I'm sorry it took me so long to get to this, but I'm going to also have some exciting news coming up for you guys here probably closer to the beginning of the year, so stay tuned for that. And to stay tuned, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because if you're not, you're going to miss out on some of the things. And I can tell you right now, I have a great DIY that you're not going to want to miss. So that is it, and I will catch all of you in my next video. Bye, loves.